Okay, Monday was business admin day, so didn't do any work there. That's a symbol for business admin. But on Sunday I did do the ship shapes thing, where I was making off-world ships be like stealth bombers, and sovereign ships be like these overlapping diamonds that kind of end up looking like a trilobite. Is it trilobite or trilobite? I think I've always said trilobite, but I think trilobite is actually correct. So they have this very jagged, like long shape, and it looks really nice, I think. I also made them put their thrusters and their turrets in the right place and mirror them along the axis of symmetry, which is 45 degrees. I've also, to some extent, tested that they are actually playable on the inside. And so those two are, oh yeah, and then also fixed everything I could about, well, fixed basically everything about them flying at this 45-degree angle. Like, inside the ship, now you need to make sure that the captain is facing 45 degrees relative to the room he's in, because the ship is flying in that direction. He should be facing the direction the ship is flying. And things like, when the thrusters aren't thrusting, their default position should be facing in the direction that the ship generally tends to fly. Fixed all that. The last thing that wasn't fixed was that the art is all 90 degrees. Anything that should be pointing 45 degrees is pointing 45 degrees in the wrong direction. So I needed John to go through and rotate all those. That's something I have the ability to do myself, but I never like to do that if I don't have to. Like, if it's already important to Game Maker, then I might as well fuck with it, because there's no risk of that asset then being like, it's already a local copy. But when it's a big change to all of John's art, I don't really want to make that my end, because then I've either got to overwrite his source files, or I don't know what the alternative is. Anyway, he's done that now. I haven't re-imported it yet. I will do that today. And my next job, code-wise, is to come up with the fourth algorithm, the last one, for the Glitchers faction. And the Glitchers faction are a bunch of people who, they're from the planet that invented/discovered teleportation, and it's a relatively new technology. Well, no, it's not that new. Okay, it's new to the rest of the galaxy. There's one planet where it just worked, and it's partly due to the location of that planet, partly due to some local resources, and in the process of discovering it, they accidentally teleported their entire military millions of light years away from their planet, so they can never go home. They've got teleportation technology, but not anything that could take them back where they came from. They can only jump in more or less random places. They don't know where they're going to go. Teleportation is, in this universe, is a technology that always has some kind of drawback. Like, if you want to know where you're going to go, you can't go very far. And if you want to, in-game, the teleported devices you get often have some kind of like cost or restriction, like you can teleport there but only if there's someone already there and you switch places, or you can teleport there but only if there's actually a route there that you could snake through, or you can teleport there but I'm going to pull you back in 3 seconds. And so on the large scale it's much more about accuracy. It's like, if you want to teleport something big, you're not going to know where it's going. Anyway, these are a faction that happened, 30 years ago or something, and so they've been surviving ever since, just as a mobile fleet, and although that's kind of sucks, they've adapted to it, and it's become like their way of life. And of course they have technology that no one else has. No one else can teleport, certainly in this region of the galaxy. And so they are like a sort of outside context problem. This was not meant to be a video about the glitches, but it is turning into that. So they are a force that just can do something that no one else knows about, that no one else knows how to do, and is a sort of a game changer. So their ships are going to be like a series of like rectangular chunks of ship, connected only by single corridors. That's my plan. So it'll be kind of like a grid, but I'm thinking of it almost like a sort of flotilla. Like, if you imagine a bunch of rafts just kind of lashed together. The idea is they've been away from home so long that they've kind of adopted other people's technology. They've strapped things together. They've improvised. They are the closest thing we have to a kind of Junkers faction, where there's a lot of scrap and there's a lot of old stuff, and it's not expertly put together. Foundry have a similar kind of situation where they've been isolated for a long time as well, but they're all expert engineers, because that's why they're on this expedition in the first place. and so their stuff is really well made. And sometimes it's over-engineered, but it's beautifully maintained, and it's heavy and practical and purposeful and good. Whereas glitches are kind of, they're not really technicians, but they have this great technology and they just lash things together as best they can. And art-wise, John has actually just put across the art, I think, yesterday, so I can import that, which is very exciting. And then we'll have all 4 sets of art in, and if I do my job, we'll have all 4 ship generation algorithms in. And at that point, it will certainly look on paper as if I'm done with all of the major sort of broad strokes features of the game. But I am already anticipating that I'm going to hit several problems with these new ship algorithms. Because a lot of the game was built on the assumption, not the assumption, but just the current situation of ships being rectangular, and that means when we divide them into segments, we do it by a sort of rectangular grid, and that works great if your ship is rectangular. A segment is important because it kind of, they're sort of like security zones. So the segment with the airlock in it is security 0, and then the segments branching off from that will be segments security 1 or 2. And in each segment there's always a keycard to the next segment, to a segment that is higher level security. So you can always get through the ship there, but you are always prevented from getting to the next segment until you've either taken out this cluster of guards or somehow stolen the keycard from them, or teleported through a door or some kind of like infiltration work. So if your ship is a V-shape, it kind of works. Like you pretty much always have 3 sectors at the moment in an off-world ship that's like this, but ultimately like this. Because the sort of apex will be a segment, and then the 2 wings will be a segment, and that's kind of fine, but that's only ever 3 segments. And in fact, no, the segment system will work fine for those as long as they can go quite big. For Sovereign, it's going to be a bit more complicated because they're this kind of series of diamonds. And my best guess is that the best way to do it is just having those be in a linear sequence, so they're just a sequence of segments. That is not a problem. That sounds like it would be linear and restrictive, but actually the sort of freeformness happens within a segment. It's much more about like, here's this cluster of guards, you've got loads of different routes around them, ways to get to them, ways to get past them, ways to get to the next segment. The logic of which segment you go to next is not the interesting part of the game. Even when there is a choice, you don't really think about it, you're just like, oh, I'll go to this one, whatever. So it being linear is fine, but I might have to tweak how segments are actually calculated in order to persuade it to do that. What I don't want is for there to be like a diamond here, and that segment 1 is this, and then segment 2 is like just the edge of that, and segment 3 is the edge of that, and then segment 4 is over there. That could be awkward. And then separately to all that, the other problem is that ships are drawn to a big canvas. All of the ship is drawn to one sort of big sprite. It's composed of little sprites, but at runtime, once it's generated the ship, it kind of makes the canvas and paints it all to this canvas. And that means that it's much quicker to draw once that's established. The issue is that that's one canvas for the whole ship, and right now the sort of maximum size of a foundry ship is pretty well balanced for that. It fits on that canvas. But a foundry ship is rectangular, which is the perfect shape to fit on a rectangular canvas. These canvases have to be rectangular. Every other ship generation type, maybe not glitches, but no, pretty much all of them will have, if you make a sort of bounding rectangle of their shape, they'll have a big empty space somewhere. In Sovereign's case, their ship will be like a diagonal line going across the rectangle space, which is not too bad, big empty spaces in the corner. In Offworld's case, there will be like a big L shape with a huge empty space there. And in Glitch's case, there'll be a series of rectangles, but I'm going to have some missing. There won't be a perfect grid. There'll be kind of irregular shapes. And empty space is no problem, but what it means is if you want a ship that has a substantial amount of room in it, a substantial amount of stuff to do, then the canvas gets really big. And once the canvas goes over a certain size, the game just crashes, because it's trying to create a texture bigger than it can. So I have to do the thing I do not wish to do, which is I've got to sort of optimize this. I've got to make it a ship make multiple canvases, and then how many? Well, it's going to depend on the ship size, and I don't want to commit to that before I, figure some things out. So what it's really going to have to do is make a sort of flexible system where I can specify, or just plug in a variable for like, okay, maximum canvas size is this, now how do you divide it? And it will have to seamlessly do that. A ship will have to just always draw all of its canvases, There's also a thing where like canvases, so the exterior is one canvas and the interior is a different one, and you fade one out and then you sort of overwrite it with the other one. I don't know if there's going to be complications with splitting that thing. So I'm certainly not going to do that today. Glitch's layout will be today and importing all that art, and then we'll be in a really nice state. And then the thing I'm thinking about is that I want to, at some point, I want to work with another programmer. I want to get someone in, possibly someone local if possible, to help me with performance and bug fixing. So the final stage of the game, like I'll have loads of balancing and gameplay stuff to do, and I don't want that to also be, I don't want to be distracted from that by also having to make the game run better and fix a bunch of technical issues. So I want someone with me to kind of help with that stuff, either so that they do it and I do the other stuff, or more likely that I still do all the bug fixing, but they are there to help me with it and figure things out and have smart ideas and stuff. And performance is one area where I really just have no enthusiasm for, and I'm not good at it. So having someone else for that would be great. And this canvas splitting thing is a classic example of the kind of shit I don't want to do. But it's difficult to postpone. I don't know. In order to test certain things about the gameplay of these big ships, I need to be able to generate a big one, and I literally can't right now. It just crashes the game. It's not a case of it running slowly, it will not run. I guess it probably won't on my desktop PC. It does on my MacBook because it's a memory issue. My desktop PC has vastly more memory. So if I just wanted to postpone the problem, I could play on that. The other thing I could do is I could tell it to stop using canvases, which is would kill performance on my MacBook. It wouldn't crash, but it would just run incredibly slowly because then it's drawing every module of the ship individually. And there are lots of draw calls for each one of those. But I could then play on my desktop, and that would solve the performance problem for now, so that I could at least play the game and just see, oh, if you make a ship big enough, does it solve the segment problem? Is it still fun to break into an off-world ship and go from this one wing to the other wing? So yeah, that sounds kind of doable. Anyway, that's not today's problem. Today's problem is just glitches, and once I've done that, it'll be a big milestone actually if I get it all done today. And I will celebrate somehow. I don't know how. I'll probably eat something that's terrible for me, or drink something that's very nice.